What is it like to own the Perodua Ativa? That's a Perodua, which means it has its roots from Toyota and Daihatsu. That means it's well put together, it's got solid feeling materials, everything is very functional, and it probably lasts for a very long time. Size-wise, it sits between the X50 and the Myvi, which is where it sits price-wise too. A top-spec car is generously equipped with head-up display and even lane keep assist. Not bad for a car at this price. However, the operations of some of these functions can be a little rough. So we can conclude that it's a good car and therefore you should buy it? Not just yet. The 3-cylinder engine is rough, like real rough. We try to clock as much miles as we can with each test car on our daily routes to get as much information as we can about them. But after a few trips between Kelana Jaya and Puncak Alam area, we were really exhausted. In fact, short trips like that started to feel like we drove from Johor to Penang using the old road. This was a real potong steam moment for us because we had planned a 9-hour road trip in the Ativa within Selangor. The reason we are doing a 9-hour trip within Selangor is easy. We wanted to see just how the rest of the Ativa package coped on a long haul trip across all types of roads, scenery and weather, which should be the mark of a good crossover or SUV, and it was starting with a disadvantage, the vibration from the engine. The first half was a straight shoot across the highway from Subang to Bukit Taga. It's no denying that the turbocharged engine is powerful and has good torque, which is best utilized by the CVT gearbox. And the gearbox is a good one too, with good pickup and no rubber band effect or delay in takeoff. The Ativa felt planted even in the wet at speed. Next came the ride and handling test. The B33 from Bukit Taga to Gegangsa passed through 2 Felda villages and a whole lot of corners. It's an amazing scenery with plantations, hills, fields and forests, with a really good driving road running through them. And this is where we found out that the Ativa has a good amount of mechanical grip. However, it lacks with a bit of front end feel. It's not a big issue if you're cruising with family or friends, but for the hardcore enthusiasts, it might be a put off. After crossing Gegangsa, we headed off to the B44 towards Sabak. The scenery now changes from forest to acres and acres of paddy fields, with lush water canals running full of water. Some countries around the world would actually kill for such abundance of water. Which is why we decided to stop, admire the beauty and take a little more shots of the Ativa. The relatively high ride height and chunky tires allowed us to get more adventurous with our shoot locations. And if you're bold enough, you can actually enter places where a Myvi would actually get stuck. But getting mesmerized by these sights had an issue. We were flat out of fuel again. But with the range showing 0 kilometers, we still managed to run about for 20 kilometers before refueling. After nearly 4 hours on the road, we finally reached our destination. The Hai Lan Siang restaurant sits on the bank of Sungai Sabah, which is a natural border between Selangor and Perak. It's at the very edge of the state with an amazing sunset view, curious decor and wonderful food. Perfect time to ease the mind, body and stomach after venturing this far out within Selangor. On the way back, we took the West Coast Expressway and used this time to reflect on the Ativa. By the time we got back to our homes, we had nearly spent 9 hours on the road with this car. It does not handle sharply, but it's safe. It's not really frugal, but it gets a decent stretch from its fuel in the tank. It's not powerful, but punchy enough to be reckless in. So for 70,000 ringgit, should you get one? It may seem like this car has a lot of shortcomings, but let us explain on how this car actually feels like. Think of this car as your student hostel room. The room may not be comfortable, spacious, and the utilities will be at best functional, but it's a reliable place to stay with heavy backing from your institute. Some of the best memories of your life will be made in this cramped and uncomfortable room. just like what we experienced after spending 9 hours in the car in one day across the entirety of Selangor. The Ativa is a very functional car, even if it barely scratches the definition of a crossover. And if you can stand the harsher than usual NVH, it's going to be a good workhorse with a good dealer backing. And for those who are lucky and brave enough to attempt epic drives with this car, it'll be something that you will be talking about for a long time. And for 70,000 ringgit, that could just be worth it.